Good morning and welcome to another edition of East of Ethnia, and greetings again from Belgrade. This is the day that students and other citizens in protest have announced a complete blockade of cities in Serbia to try to prevent things like traffic from functioning, to bring attention to excessive violence and repression by the police, and to bring attention to their demands. And it seems to be working. Let's give a little bit of background. The last time that I talked to you was after the big protest meeting on Saturday. And after this meeting, as everybody predicted, there was, on the part of the regime, orchestration of street violence, and orchestration of street violence is something that often happens. This is a common tactic. And the point of it is to get a pretext for intensified repression. And this is, in fact, what has happened over the last several days. Um, there have been repeated arrests, beatings, incidents of violence by police on the streets, to which today's blockade is a reaction. Now, let me say something first about this strategy of trying to preserve power by intensifying repression, and that is that it's a strategy that is bound not to work. First of all, because of its effects. Remember that the principal protesters here and most of the people being arrested are students. And something that Slobodan Milosevic had already learned in 2000 is if you start the day with students and you arrest the protesters, then you have arrested somebody's kid. And that means that you end the day with the whole family of that person opposed to you. It creates more enemies. The second reason that repression is not likely to work is there is pretty no state in the world that has the capacity to maintain its power entirely by force only. You want to look at Serbia. Serbia has altogether about 40,000 police officers, and when we say 40,000 police officers, this doesn't necessarily mean that all of them are politically motivated to be loyal to the regime. That applies probably to the special units. That number of 40,000 also includes ordinary police officers, traffic cops, that sort of thing, who are ordinary citizens, and their sympathies are the same as the sympathies of ordinary citizens. So they can't necessarily be counted on. But there's another matter here that I think points to the effectiveness of these street blockades and street protests as a strategy. Because look, this is how street protests work. If you've got a large number of people at a major intersection or on a major street, then you simply fill the street with a crowd. The police will come to try to disperse the crowd. They will arrest some of the people, but not all of them, and then they will leave. And then the crowd comes back. If you're talking about smaller streets, and if you're talking about pedestrian crossings, then what people in the protests are doing is simply crossing the street at the pedestrian crossing over and over again, going backwards so that the street is impassable to traffic. Eventually, the police will show up and tell the people to stop. And when the police come and tell the people to stop, then they do. And they wait for the police to go away, and then they start again. So this means that the police, which have limited force, are constantly traveling back and forth trying to intervene, and then to intervene again once they have stopped one intervention. Think about this in terms of the environment as it operates in the Balkan summer, which is very hot, is not favorable to police. Why? Well, every day it's over 30 degrees Celsius here, and you have the police in full riot gear. So that means helmets, protective vests, shields, carrying heavy equipment. They become exhausted. And this is, I think, the product of the protest. And the reason that these street blockades turn out to be effective is, first of all, they repeatedly demonstrate the weakness of the regime, which is unable to stop the blockages and protests that are directed against them. It constantly draws attention to the ineffectiveness of the repression and of the repressive forces. And the second thing that it produces is exhaustion of forces of repression who will give up energy and who will give up hope. Now, we don't know how things will develop during the day. It's still morning, and they have said they're intending to continue blockades and protests during the day in the attempt to shut down at least automotive traffic in the major cities in the country. But what's happening is that the effort to try to respond by increasing repression is not working. It's producing effects opposite to what is intended. Attention, both domestic and international, is being drawn both to the protests and to the police violence. One thing that is not happening is we're not seeing articulation of the demands or moving any closer to the elections that are being demanded by the protesters. We'll see whether that happens and whether some sort of new strategy develops. But for now, the word of the day is confrontation, and it is asymmetrical confrontation. Thank you for your time and attention, and we'll talk to you again soon.